Namaskar. Happy Navratri to all. May Goddess Durga illuminate your life with countless blessings. I am Architect Sujata Godbole. On the behalf of Women's Education Society, Srimati Manorama Bai Mudle College of Architecture, better known as LAD Architecture, I welcome you all to this webinar series, Jaitra Marching Ahead. Webinar will be followed by question and answer session. I request all the participants to type their questions in chat box. Objective of this webinar series is to facilitate understanding of design philosophy of an architect, different approaches to design, use of materials, etc. Our institute always focuses on developing students' proficiencies by encouraging them to participate in various seminars and lectures by architects. This broadens their perspective of the students. Keeping in this mind, today we have architect K.S. Chetan from Bengaluru to interact with us. He is the principal architect of Kham Design. He has done his BAj from the Bangalore University and has a vast experience of 22 years. He is founder of Humpy Center for Design, a hub for design dialogue, a unique space for designers. A visiting faculty in School of Architecture across the country and faculty for faculty training program in design schools. Now I request our principal Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev and president of Maharashtra Association of Schools of Architecture, that is a MASA, to welcome our today's guest, architect K.S. Chetan. Over to ma'am.
Good afternoon, one and all, to this wonderful program, Jaitra, initiated by our faculty, Dr. Sujata Godbole, for our students and for the benefit of everybody who is interested in architecture. This is one of the unique programs which is becoming one of the important programs of our school because we are taking actually the advantage of this pandemic situation. Instead of grumbling, instead of being demotivated that we are at home, we have taken up an opportunity to make our students aware of the wonderful works which architects are doing and contributing to the knowledge and the field of architecture profession. I welcome Chetanji, you on this platform, and I'm sure your contribution to the world of architecture is wonderful. But your contribution today and your dialogues with our students are definitely going to benefit them, as well as they are going to benefit me and my teachers, colleagues as well. I remember our dialogue and our discussions, and I particularly remember that name of your firm, Kham, and that we had an interesting discussion. I'm sure you're going to share all those things with our students. So I won't repeat it again. Sujata might have already told you that ours is one of the quite early or oldest institutions of architecture in this region, not only in this region but in entire India. And the peculiarity of this institution is also that we are imparting quality education to girl students, and that's something which is, I think, makes it more meaningful. And rest everything, of course, you know about, or otherwise we can discuss on another platform as well. But I'm really very happy that you have agreed to be here with us today. And once again, I not only welcome you, but I welcome my colleagues and my students who are there eagerly waiting to listen to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Now I request architect K.S. Chetan to share his experience with her. Over to sir.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Professor Ujjwala Chakradev. Thank you, Professor Sujata Godbole, and my good friend Sampada Peshwar. I would like to start off by going down a few years. A few years is not too long, just 2 decades ago, almost 25 years ago. That's when I met Sampada, when both of us were college-going kids. and we happened to meet in NASA. So that's where our association goes down to. And out of the blue, I happened to meet Sampada Madam in one of the talks in Mumbai, where I was presenting, and she was a part of the audience, and she said, "Isn't this the same Chetan I know from college days?" I said, "Yes, I've gone a little bald and a little stout. Yes, it's the same Chetan." And we went back as if time had not passed, and we went back to remember those old days, and happened to meet a couple of our friends after that. It's a pleasure being here today, and thank you for this warm welcome, and looking forward for some nice interactive session. I'm keeping it quite informal, even though there will be a small presentation. My office has put forward a few slides for me to showcase the works which Come Design has been doing. But the journey of inquiry, especially with most of the students, unfortunately, I'm not able to see students in the room. I would definitely, it's always nice to interact with people in person, but given the situation, now we are able to talk to each one of us over the net. But if there are any queries, don't hesitate to shout it out on the chat box, and I will try and interact on any of the queries. The presentation will be quite informal. So if there's any doubts on anything, you can ask Madam to stop me and answer any of the queries. So let me share my presentation with all of you. Great. This is my firm, Come Design, and we've been designing projects for the last 20 to 23 years now, and have been exploring various nuances of space making for the last 23 years. And my firm is called Come Design. But before I go into Come Design, let me just start off by saying, by talking about a journey right from my childhood. I think something which we are missing, but I see a revival of sorts in terms of certain games we used to play and certain things where children were allowed to play around, right? I mean, three of my favorite games were the Lagori or the marbles or the field games where community living, community participation of kids was so strong, which somewhere I feel because of the fear of security or whatever, we're losing out on this with our present age kids. But these are certain things which help me look at life in a different perspective. Am I audible to all of you? Right. So, okay. So this is where our childhood starts. This is where we start really looking at architecture needs to start from here. It needs to start from looking at certain concepts. Say, for example, here itself, you look at space making, which unconsciously starts happening, right? Say, for example, the space making of putting those tiles one over the other so that, and then trying to aim a ball going and hitting it to creating that circle and putting those elements of marbles inside, and say that if I hit and the marbles go out of that space, and how it evolves. These are all things which gets unconsciously imbibed to you when you're playing these games. But when you finally end up being an architect and start looking at these explorations, somewhere isn't architecture this very similar attitude of playing games, right? Of creating new things, creating new geometries, creating new rules, or breaking those new rules, right? So that's the kind of journey we have as a children. And later during my college days, especially, these are later photographs of some of my friends where, I mean, I was actively involved with theater right from my school days, from my college days, being a part of a lot of street plays. We were talking about issues of daily life, talking about politics. So isn't architecture about political statement? Isn't architecture all about trying to express the body in a different format. So these are all certain things which influenced me as an young kid to really explore various expressions of the body. These were street plays which I used to do. This is also part of our journey at my house, where today is Navaratri, starting of Navaratri, and my house was quite famous for keeping dolls. And this is part of my house in Bangalore, where we were famous for putting idols for display on, and it was there on a day. Every day they used to change, and these kinds of new space making, new narrations being created on a daily basis has been part of my upbringing. And this unfortunately has stopped in my house, but I still see a lot of similar stories happening in various parts of the country. And we see even images of temporary space making with the Ganesh Utsav and things like that, which is happening. So these are all things we grow up with. We grow up with unconsciously imbibing these ideas of space making into our own self, right, and narratives. And pardon me, but this is myself trying to do some kind of a dance performance. This is a folk art called Yakshagana, where I used to perform for almost 3 to 4 years. Not 3 to 4 years, almost 8 years during my growing up days. And another idea of literally looking at how the body transforms itself, either as a narrative to again tell a story of interest. Um, these are some amazing forms. Here you're talking about construction of the story making, right? I mean, I remember sitting down. This is myself again. I remember sitting down and putting on this headgear, which used to take us almost an hour and a half to prepare. And slowly you kind of understand how certain materiality comes into play, how that materiality gets converted into a part of your body, and then how that body literally starts expressing itself in the form of a story, right? So part of all my narratives, this is again myself performing for in one of those stage plays. So these were the growth inspirations. So certain inspirations which has continued to my architectural language today, which has kept me rooted with the context. And these were all those things which got me rooted into that context. And the other thing which really influenced me greatly in my growing periods as a student of architecture was my involvement with NASA, right as a student participant to going on to be a part of the governing council and being a part of the advisory council and being a part of NASA for almost 8 or 9 years. Even though I finished my schooling, I continued to be there as an advisor, setting up documentation centers, setting up various activities for NASA. And this NASA allowed me to travel, allowed me to see places of varied interest. My first trip outside Karnataka was for this beautiful place in Bhubaneswar called Lingaraj Temple Complex in Bhubaneswar, which kind of helped me look at architecture from a different perspective. Suddenly, this was this new journey which I had taken on to myself, which said that let me explore architecture from the perspective of travel. And this travel bug caught up with me in 1992, and ever since I've been continuously traveling. And it is only now in the lockdown period that I managed to stay put in a place for more than 10 days. And it was a huge journey for me. I mean, so during my architectural education, I traveled to various places across the country, and literally by the end of my 5 years program in architecture, I had literally traveled across the length and breadth of India and had seen places of interest. Um, just imagine how beautifully this piece of sculpture is in terms of talking about Ravana holding on to Mount Kailas and being an arrogant person. But no, how is it possible to build a narrative with something as strong as a stone and tell a story? These were things which put me into a huge, some kind of a query as I was growing up as a student of architecture. And I also managed to travel across India to modern buildings, right from understanding Le Corbusier, exploring Le Corbusier, and this understanding of the context and his idea of the building as a machine to live in, and walking around Chandigarh's sectors, various sectors, and understand, re-looking at design, uh, to understanding structural systems. This, I think, is one of the most beautiful structural buildings ever built in India. Unfortunately, we lost this building to the idiocracy of the political body. What a massive, what an amazing structure of literally looking at very thin frame structures going, triangulating and creating large spans. We have lost a gem of an architecture by this building being torn down recently. Um, and then you do get into idealizing certain mentors during your growing terms, and these are two people who have been great mentors to me, Professor Navnath Kanade and Professor Jaisim Krishna Rao, a journey which I greatly enjoy even today whenever I interact with them, and I've been so happy to have been involved with them on various levels even today. With Namnath, where I did a few, I co-curated a few studios, design studios with him, understanding architectural language for the first years. And with Jaisim Krishna Rao, the journey started. I would like to tell this story. This is an amazing story which I want to tell you. We were during those times. It was the era of drafting boards and no computers. So during those eras, we kind of started working with seniors to understand architecture. Right. I mean, I was from a first batch of a college, and because of which the teaching problem of any college is always there. And then I had an amazing faculty called Satish Rao, Professor Satish Rao, who said, why don't you travel the world? Why don't you start working with various seniors? Why don't you explore things beyond the classroom? He was my HOD, and I think that advice of his really pushed me hard. And I started working with seniors, working on their thesis projects right from my first year. So by the time I went in to do my thesis in my fifth year, I had already worked with close to around 8 to 10 seniors on their thesis projects. And in my fourth year, when I was working on one particular thesis project, we had a free time in the evening, and we said, let's go and explore one nice building which is being constructed here and occupied. So I happened to walk across the road and walked into this building, and I walked in and I saw a house which kind of broke all the rules, all the definitions which I built myself up till my fourth year of what a house is, of what a material is. Say, for example, if the college talks me about King bond, Queen's bond, or any of those different kinds of brick bond, herring bonds, and things like that, I go here and I've seen that whole bonding system was very different. Structural system was different. I didn't know how the roof was sitting. So it was something magical for me. So I literally fell in with love with that building and asked my senior for whom I was helping out on his thesis as to who this architect was, and they said it's Mr. Professor Jaisim Krishna Rao. And the next day I went to his office and I said, sir, I saw this building of yours and I would like to work with you. And he said, why not? And I don't know, it was one of his good moods that he said, come over from tomorrow morning. And I walked into his office the next day. and he said, "What are you good at?" And I said, "I love doing physical models. I love doing models because I explore buildings using models, my architectural language using models." And I said, "Wow, that's interesting because everybody who comes here wants to do a draft, a plan or an elevation or a section." So we said, he took out a inland letter cover, and on the back of that letter, he drew 5 lines, 5 to 6 lines, and he took another sheet of paper and he drew us a skeletal section, and he said, "Here is your design. I want you to develop this model." And this was close to a lakh of square feet of built-up area, right? And it took me the next 6 months of working with clay, mound board, glass, of literally exploring a very new kind of geometry, very new kind of language, which till then was not even in my vocabulary. And everything, whenever I used to do something, it was questioned, it was broken, it was thrown into the dustbin, and we had to rework, redesign, relook at things. And after 6 months, I really enjoyed when Professor Krishna Rao Jaisim told the client that in case if I'm not able to build it, go to Chetan, he will build it for you because he knows what the intent of this thought process is. And that journey of inquiry with Jason took me onto a journey which is so inspiring that it is still the same questions which I ask every time. Is it the question is simple, is this the only way to do it? Right? Is this the best way to do it? Is it possible for me to break this rule and take it forward? And that became the guideline of my life. My guideline of my life literally ended by saying that is to understand my boundaries of what binds me today. What is the boundaries of my architecture? And can I consciously step out of that boundaries and break that boundary to question my own boundaries and see how well I can explain that. And I started putting it to every aspect of my life. I started putting it to the way I lead my life, to the way I look at a material, the way I look at geometry in architecture, the way I look at structural design, the way I look at life, the way I look at teaching today, the way I look at interaction with students. And that's one journey which I've gone into, and I will be sharing that journey a little more in detail as we go further. So I think I've taken a lot of prelude now. So if there are any queries, do start posting it so I'll be able to answer any of these. Madam, you can interpret me anytime so that if there's any query or any points, we can always get into that journey. So post this in 1997, when I told Sir Jason sir that I would like to start my own firm, he said it's time that you get onto the into a journey of self-exploration. So I opened my firm called Come Design, and this is a logo which we reformulated. We re-triggered off a few years ago, I think 7, 8 years ago. But before that, the logo was different, and because of that logo, and I had a French beard, so a lot of people confuse calm to come, and a lot of things, and calm. So people started asking me, "Is your firm called work? Is your firm called various things?" So we started understanding why is that so, and the story of this logo is another very interesting thing of how do you get the sound of come in the logo. So I will go back to a couple of years and say when I was a student, when I was doing my thesis. And during my thesis, I happened to travel across the country again. I went on a 3-month journey to various parts of the country to really explore various colleges and to explore various thesis reports on how they have really looked at a particular process, a thesis process. And my thesis was all about how do I understand what is a cube? And can I go beyond what is understanding a cube? And can I redefine the cube? And during one of those journeys, I happened to step into the library of SPI Delhi and saw a small book which talked about Come, which was an exhibition which they had done a few years ago on what Come means in the Indian context. Come in Sanskrit means concepts of space. To make you understand it a little easier, it's one of the primordial seed words and as powerful a sound as Om, and it stands. Sukham and Dukkham are concepts of space of emotions. So that's where the idea of come came in, and I said that's the right word for me. So because what we are what we are working on is a journey of space exploration, is a journey of redefining spaces, and what better word than to look at the word come as a philosophy to define my practice. And I started re-looking at the meaning of it, and these are all the various meanings of that space creation of come, to dwell, to involve, to trigger, and it's one of the primordial words which is even used in any of the slokas. So I found it very powerful, even though I'm an atheist by belief. I strongly rooted to this word, and I really like the way stories of mythology is spoken, and that's where somewhere you'll see glimpses of that in the architecture which we practice, right? Uh, I established the firm in 1988 with an idea to explore architectural theory and design. And we explored the design not just in the formwork of buildings, but also in the form of art, literature, theater, in various forms. And we are looking at present, we're concentrating a lot on architecture and design education. So I will get into some of the projects. I will try and explain a couple of projects, and then I'll take you onto a journey of a few slides, which will just run through. And if there's something interesting, I will just talk about that as a story. This is a house we designed on a 60/40 site in Bangalore. This is the basement floor, which goes down by almost 5 to 6 feet or 6, 7 feet below the ground. And this is a basement with a music hall and a interaction space with a support staff room, and a toilet, and two courtyards, and a huge rock in the center. And this is the entrance level. You come into the lobby and you climb up a few steps to go to the living room, or you climb down a few steps to go to the basement. The living room is at the mid level. The living room, kitchen, dining, and the bedroom and the common bathroom is at the mid level, with a look down into the courts on either side. And on the upper floor, you have the study looking down to the central court, and the study overlooks into the living room and the courtyard below, and it has two bedrooms. The bedroom with the curved wall is one of my favorites. I will talk to you about that when I show you the images. The curved wall which you see there is one of my favorite spaces from the inside. It's the son's bedroom, and it's quite magical throughout the day. It changes its language. This is the basement floor with the courtyards. Now, like I was telling you, I think as students, you need to get into a sense of inquiry, a sense of questioning of what certain things mean, right? So if we are talking about no vertical joints in your brick masonry, can you question as to why should there be no vertical joints? Right? And if that's a beautiful language you would like to follow, how can you create those vertical joints at the same time make sense to it structurally, right? So you kind of redo that kind of a language there. And this fluted column which you see here is actually made out of jali bricks, the same clay brick which is kept one or the other and reinforcements put inside. So you don't have any kind of a centering for it, but kind of pour concrete and load the whole structural system and make the structure float on top of it. And you start questioning as to why do I need to fill a whole flat slab with concrete? Uh, if there are spaces which does not require concrete, can I remove that concrete structurally? And can I fill it up with something else? So you start questioning this various idioms of definition of what a material should do. You start questioning it, right? And I'm a great fan of the craft, right? I'm a great fan of the craft. So when I know you've all seen oxide cement floor, red oxide floor, but you question and say, if there's a craftsman who can do it with red oxide, can I do it with black oxide? Right? So you ask him to do it with black oxide, and he says this is never done. But you ask him to do it, and he does it, and then you say, if a black oxide floor can be done, can I create a piece of art by embedding it with yellow oxide? So you start chipping out the black oxide in a particular geometry and start infilling it with yellow oxide and create a very modern contemporary language with a very old antique material, right? You question those things. So you kind of recreate those new definitions of what is bound by that material, right? You create spans which are almost 35, 40 feet in length. I mean, this curved shell roof is floating in midair. It has only 2 points, which is, I think, a 3-inch pipe holding it down, supporting it down, but literally suspended from the top beam. And this shell roof literally holds on beautifully. And this is the entrance porch for that house with the courtyard in the front, landscape courtyard as you enter the door, and you enter the mid-level, and that's the shell roof which you have inside the house, right? And yeah, you kind of articulate that shell roof, you kind of articulate the you kind of bring in aesthetics to it. So when you get a large canvas to paint on, and the easiest way is to paint off a single color, um, right? But you go out and ask, get a Gond artist, you get an artist of Gond, ask him to come and paint, make him fly down, get a traditional craftsman, ask him, learn from him how to look at natural colors, work with him and create a painting. We had this amazing artist, I think Nisha Mathiv, who runs a craft center, who helped us work with the artists, got them here, and got this beautiful painting done for this client. And the client, I personally feel that all the credit for literally the house should go to the client here, because she was the trigger point for a lot of thought process. Prasanna Nair, she was a trigger point for a lot of changes, even which I brought into my life. So if you really look at this, this is the shell roof I was speaking about. And you see those 2 pipes which hold this shell roof. These are hardly 3-inch by 3-inch pipes which hold it up, and which kind of makes magic out of this this space, right? That's a central court. This is that curved room which I was talking about. This kid is a artist by birth, so he really wanted to paint birds which come in front of his house onto that tree which is in front of his house. So we kind of say, how can you create privacy to you, but still create a sense of opening into the tree? So you kind of created these fins and have single, one-sided mirrors as the facade. So you see the reflection of the tree from the outside, but you see the tree from the inside. And when you're doing that, I mean, it was fun to draw these lines. But when I went into the structural system of this, this curved wall was floating in air, because the structural column for this support was not on the edge of this curve, was almost literally, that curve was floating in air. and we suddenly decided to add a mezzanine floor on top and allow the child to work on the top. So when you do that, and how do you structurally span the space and literally not make it sit on that wall, but literally float on that wall and throw back all the structural system to the backyard, to the walls at the back. So we kind of looked at nature as an inspiration, looked at the cobweb. So you look at the structural system of a ring in the center and spikes which go out onto the beam on this edge. I don't know if you are able to see the pointer. I will try and see if I can. Okay, I will be looking at the pointer. So this is the curved spiral, the honeycomb structure which has spiral beams going onto this beam, and this beam in turn goes and throws this onto the wall here and onto the wall there. And this is a suspended roof. And this again becomes a column here and literally holds that conical roof on top. You need to see this space to really understand the magic of structures. It looks quite beautiful here, but structurally quite challenging for us to build it. This span of the building was sitting on a wall here and two 3-inch columns here, and two 1-inch by 1-inch box sections holding onto the space on top. Pure geometry, pure fun. If not for my journey with Jaisim, I would not have questioned this and have built geometries which are kind of regular, or I don't know. So you go back to that artist and say, if the flooring is waterproof, can I make it into a wall? So he says, yes, it can be done with a certain mixture of egg yolk and what is that, jaggery. And we ended up doing this Pavarati finish, traditional Pavarati finish, using no tiles, no joints, and you get this beautiful finish at literally half the cost of this tile. So if you really look at, this house was built, I think, 5-6 years ago, and including all your interiors, we ended up building this house for almost 75 to 80 lakhs, which is in today's term might be 1 crore of rupees. But if somebody really looks at it and says, how much would today's cost be for this project, they would even talk about a couple of lakhs, a couple of crores. This is another house which we built, a house which was built. We questioned the idea of building column beam structure. The client had a huge set of requirements. So we said, can we look at steel as a building material? And we said, can we build with steel at the same time? Can we build the context of being natural materials and things like that coming onto the play? So this is the steel structure. I will talk to you a little bit about this this structure as I go further. This is again a dramatic structure for me. Again, breaks all rules of structural nomenclature for structural engineers. My structural engineer said this can't be done, and I had to literally sit down with him and start looking at how a flower works, how a lotus leaf works, and say, can we look at how the lotus leaf works, and how the floating lilies work, and can we make this whole two-storied structure float on air? So if you really look at it, there's a same thing, 2-inch by 2-inch box here, goes back as a suspended member and goes back as a rod being suspended from that beam. So this 2 floors is actually being suspended from that beam. And that is being done because that's a puja room. And we said, if somebody believes in a puja, in God at a very higher level, why should we allow them to sit on the ground? Why can't we bring in philosophy into structures and say, let God float, let him levitate? So the whole puja room literally is levitating. And one idea was to literally cut the slab here and say, let this not even touch that building. But yeah, I was going on a mad journey, but the client got a little panicky at that level and said, no, let the slab at least touch. You're already making it float. Don't even levitate it. So we ended up touching that slab to the existing building. So this is the steel structure. Today I will not build with these steel structures. Lesson learned. This is too heavy for this building. Today I literally use one column instead of four. Um, right? So because I think the structural engineer was also working on a steel structure, and he, knowing that I was quite a mad architect, like a lot of structural engineers talked to me about. He knew I would be getting in brick walls and other things into a steel structure, and they've all been looking at steel structure and prefabricated walls for this. But he knew I would be using brick, exposed brick, glass block, putting a brick roof on top and things like that. So we ended up having a lot more steel here. So this is the specifications for the design. There's a cafe at the ground floor with a dancing space and a car park. Now the cafe has become very successful in that part of the town, and so it has occupied the whole car park and the dancing space for the cafe. There's a lift well, there's a changing room, and there's a staircase to go up to the top. And the first floor is actually a kitchen, a bedroom, a two-bedroom, and a living room house, a two-bedroom house. And this is the second floor, which is a house for themselves. A very unique client. He wanted his father-in-law to stay in this part of the house, and he and his parents wanted to stay in this part of the house. So you had both the troublemakers in the same house. The but an amazing, lovely family. I really love them for the kind of value systems they've got into themselves, and the whole family lives together beautifully in this house. So you looked at again. This was the living room. That was the puja room, which was floating. My earlier idea was to literally put rods and float it, but then that got changed as we grew into this project. And then you go onto the first floor, there's a bridge which goes out and comes into two bedrooms. So it's a three-bedroom, it's a simple house. But on the facade, you had this lift well. So you created that staircase wall, and you kind of created a green wall out here. And this was on a very tight site, I think of around 28 feet by 50 feet or something like that. Quite a tight site for us to work on. This became the insides of the upper floor, the floating bridge on top, going into the two rooms. That was the puja room, that was the living room. Some more images. You know that you have some very interesting materials to play with you as a palette to work with. Here the palettes for me are brick, are jalis, is clay, is oxide floors. And one very important element which I continuously play in all my projects is a palette of light. So I try to see how the drama of light continues to be there as part of the language through and through. So here in this project, I mean, everything in this picture, all building materials are literally waste materials, right? This is that 30 rupees flower pot put inverted there, the base cut, and a glass put. So this is natural light coming in, right? Here is one old PVC pipe left out by the plumbers. We put that PVC pipe and put a glass on top. You don't need to spend money here. You have, if you've created niches, you kind of create an idol there, you create a natural spotlight, and throughout the morning you have this beautiful light. And this light travels, and you incline the top of the PVC pipe, so you incline the duration of the spotlight. From morning till almost till 3 o'clock in the evening, you get spotlight from here, right? And you continue moving. And just by moving this plane, here is where you question geometry. No, I can create a straight wall, but the moment I looked at what do we call this in modern geometry, I'm not able to get that word, but you kind of modulate simple geometries. You kind of immediately start creating planes for this becomes a glass block lighting into this area. Here you have a glass block lighting that area, but it's the same plane in one sense, right? So it creates some very interesting geometries. I will run through the presentation. I think I'm overshooting on my timeline. So I will run through the presentation now. So this is what I was saying. This is one plane, right? And you have light flowing onto, here it flows onto that side. From here, the light is thrown into this plane. And this was a dry brick vault, which we did within those I sections. So this is what I was telling, and then we put another slab on top. This one. Right. Just a moment. This is a kindergarten, which I'll show you. Madam, whenever you want me to stop, you can just let me know. I will stop. This is a kindergarten we've designed in Bangalore. Again, the structural system which we questioned. We said if a tree does not transfer load on a 90 degrees, why should our buildings transfer load on a 90 degree? And we had an amazing construction team and the engineering team, which where we reworked on this X, and we said that this tie beam and that tie beam, let it be on the same central line. So out here, this tie beam is happening on the outside of this inclined plane. This tie beam is happening on the inside of this inclined plane, but this is on the same central axis. So you retain the center of gravity of the structural system. And when we did this, we saved literally 30% of our steel consumption, which means that almost a saving of around 30 lakhs. This is a prefabricated construction. We had to build a school on a lease land. So we designed it in such a way that this building can be shifted after its lease period. You can shift this building 6 times. So first time is from the factory onto the site. Second time is from the site to another plot, and the third time is from the plot to the onto the building. And then another sequence you can do. You can shift it to 3 different sites if required. So this is how we designed the school. This is a very interesting school. It does not look at regular kind of learning. It's a very open learning system. Say, for example, this pond which is there in the central courtyard was water collected by the children from a nearby lake. They came and poured this water. They got the kind of plants from that lake, brought it. They identified the fishes in the lake, bought the fishes, and created that whole ecosystem. And in that process, they learned their 5th standard science chapters. Right, so you kind of literally look at the root system, the leaf system. This is a beautiful school imparting education. So we said no walls in this education. Here you see a cycle. This time it will be a cycle. Tomorrow they would have removed this and made it into something else. So it's a makerspace school. People learn by doing things. We learn by experimenting and redefining geometries. I'm not able to see if I can find any of the roof systems here. Sorry. Here the roofs actually are thin, 2 inches thick, 2 feet wide by 30 feet long slabs. But the thickness of the roofs in the center is 1.5 inch thick, and the ribs are 6 inches thick. So it was very lightweight to even lift. And we assembled this whole building. I'm using the word assembled because it was nut and bolt. We assembled this whole building in a matter of 30 days. The structural system was put in place in 30 days. Another 2 to 3 months of the building work of building the walls, flooring systems, and things like that happened. This is the kindergarten which I designed for the same thing. When we questioned what is a kindergarten, we said, let us look at a shell. And a shell is something which grows naturally, which expands naturally. So we said A kindergarten is also the place where a child comes out for the first time from the comfort of his house. So we immediately related to an egg and the way the egg crackles and opens up. So we intertwined the idea of a seashell and an egg opening up, and you look at the seashell here and you see the cracking of the seashell as an egg. And we said, let this be the school for the kindergarten. And we had to span close to around 35 or 40 feet in length for the children to play around and run along. So this became a school for the children. So it becomes more of a toy for them. It is no more a rectangular building for them. It becomes a toy. You go in, you don't have direct lighting, you have reflected lighting. You have windows at the children's level, eye level, so you can look out. And it becomes magical as the day progresses. Light starts playing, becoming a very interesting thing. So this again is a 2-inch thick ferro cement slab, bolted at the bottom, bolted in the top, and welded to the ridges. So again, if I remove these weldings and remove the bolts on those ties, I can literally shift this again as a structural system and move it to another place. Sorry, I'm going to run now. So these are again some cost-effective homes we designed in various parts of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu and South India actually. Not the left-hand side, the right-hand side is this building. Okay, this was the video. Yeah. You integrate courtyards, you integrate their passion into their homes. You don't just make it another 3 or 4 bedrooms. You integrate all those behavioral patterns, and at the same time you start breaking your own boundaries of what architecture means to you and take it beyond that, and start building these homes for your clients. Because at the end of it, you are building their dreams. You work with crafts. Those are Athangudi tiles which you see in the floor, natural handmade floor tiles, and you have that view on the house. Right, I'll just run through. This is another cottage we designed in a place called Chukki Mane. We looked at triangular A-frames because we know that an A-frame is one of the most stablest geometries. We have learned that in our king truss and queen truss in our building construction thing. So you take it beyond an A-frame, beyond a king post or a queen post truss, and make it into a building, and you create very unique geometries in a very cost-effective way, right? I'm running through the same kind of geometries which happen in various languages we build, various parts. This is a 30-40 site. You build in hot and dry climate. You look at how to cool a building. This building is cooler by almost 15 degrees from the outside, and it's in a hot and dry climate like Ilkal. And you start looking at how do I create a segmented dome as a roof structure and not use your regular reinforcement. So if a regular slab would have looked at easily around, I would say around 200 kgs of steel for this, whereas we ended up with around 25 to 30 kgs of steel to be consumed for that slab spanning. Some more homes. I'll just move through. why should a door be teak wood? Why can't it be the same wood which supported your roofing structures? So we made this roof door using the same scaffolding poles which we use for concreting. Somebody likes to use traditional wooden columns, you bring that back into their lifestyle. You play around, you build relationships with material, you build relationships with your clients in the whole journey. And you, as I was sharing earlier, you don't leave something only for a definition of what we were told in by the standards. This is a roof tile. This is a rich tile of a sloping roof. But we said, what happens if I keep it vertical and start looking at playing around with as panels? And how can I use that lip which comes out of the rich tile? So we started putting infilling it with kadapa and glass. So this is the kind of glass finish play of light which happens on the inside. And you, as a sharing, you build relationships and friends for life with your clients. You work with tight clients. You know, this is on a site which is 22 feet by 25 feet with a plethora of requirements and a budget of around 20 lakhs. So how do you build something with that amount? And they want a garden on the inside, a home theater space, a library, a wall to get their paintings done, various things. Let me run through. One, that staircase was an amazing journey we went into. It's a double curve staircase. It was curving on both X and Y axis. And how do you really understand the structural system of an X and Y axis and play around? And if you really look at it, where is it hinged? On what is it sitting? Right? It is sitting on the landing on both sides. It's literally a floating staircase. How do you look at all the beer? What do you do with all the beer you have drunk in the site visits? So you make that into a wall. This is on a site which is 20 feet by 40 feet. This needs another story to be told. I think we're short of time. You integrate the rock on the site into that's the kitchen, and you have a beautiful rock in the kitchen. And you know there are now shelves in the rock, which becomes where you keep your utensils. Why should the compound be outside the house? Why can't you include the garden inside the house? So you put the compound wall outside and you get the garden inside and put a glass roof on top and make it a part of the living room. Some people love antique homes. So how do you understand the love for an antique house, a courtyard house, and still bring in you know your sense of structural ingenuity? And when we went in and they said, let's do a steel column and clad it with things. Let's do a steel column and clad it with wood. We said, no, let's identify the right kind of wood which can take the load. And we go into that journey of finding out the right kind of wood, getting that wood, building, making that the structural system. I mean, nowadays I'm a great fan of waste materials. So we find waste materials wherever we start building homes out of it. I'm just running through, guys. I think I've got the intent and the thought process behind most of our projects in place. Things we have gone through already. Right. Another small story I will just share. This was a pyramidical roof in the site, and he said we should not dismantle that pyramid because it has certain belief systems associated to it. But What you see here as the line here, where I'm showing my laser mark, was the flooring of the previous roofing system, and that was where he was meditating. He said, "Can we have a study space here?" So we dug the roof. We didn't remove the roofing system. We dug the floor, put it down, introduced the study area, and we said a meditative space is like a flower, is like a lotus. So we said, can we put a column like a leaf? Can we put a column and spread the floor like a leaf, like a lotus, and let's sit in the lotus and meditate. So that was the journey. Why do we need furniture? This is the only furniture in that house. There's a good saying, no, that a doctor can bury his clients, can bury his mistakes. An architect can only plant vines. So this house is literally covered with landscape. You only see glimpses of this house. This is not a college we are doing in a hot and dry climate. This is the school part. My interaction, I mean, this is one of the design studios for my second semester students on how do you look at geometries, right? We gave them all a cube and started asking them as to what is a cube and how can you slowly in the tenure of that 26 weeks of that journey, we literally asked them to question the idea of a cube and started redefining the definition of cube and slowly introduced the clientele to it, slowly understood, make them understand what is light, what is orientation, and how does light fall. So why do you puncture certain things and what kind of a drama happens on the inside? This project didn't have any drawings. This project did not have any sections or any plans. It just had this evolution of a model. And you take this journey on the design studio with only this models. It was dramatic. I mean, children literally enjoyed the studio. Breaking, I mean, nobody had even explored. I mean, you see one person turn the cube on its edge, and suddenly you saw 3-4 people turning it and exploring it and reworking it. You guys need to work with material. This is something which I continuously do. I keep doing various workshops. Now we do something called Humpy Center of Design, where we do a lot of workshops. This is my toy making workshop with a lathe machine. How do you turn wood to create new geometries? There's another design studio which we did for the 4th years, where they were supposed to do a large span structure. So to really understand what is structural system for an architect, how do you talk to them about structural system? So this was an exercise. We gave them your drawing board, and we asked them to stand outside a 6 feet by 6 feet square, and they had to hold this without pinching that board. So they had to use only a cupping or using the palm to hold the board, and they had 6 people to do that. So how do you look at? So you look at this lady stretching out her hand and stretching out her leg. So you have another person holding her hand, and you know that junction of that line, right? And then we try and experiment by putting loads onto different levels. So how do you look at your own body as a structural system? Then you understand what is strain, what is stress. How do you span large span structures? So somebody else was sketching this down as a line diagram of structural analysis, and you play around. This is in Humpy, looking at how we look at nature as an inspiration for design. I keep doing this workshop on nature-inspired design thinking, and I do it from HCD. You can follow me on my Instagram page on Come Design or Humpy Center for Design, or Chetan Shiva Prasad, where I'll be announcing my various workshops on how you can look at nature. And my journey now is on education and exploring things. I would definitely want to talk to professors and see if we can
वैजयंती त्यांची लिंक हे झाली का?
Yeah, I think we have. Vijayanta, can you please call him?
Yeah, ma'am. I'm calling him.
It seems like there is some he's been having some, I think, internet issues on his side. So please give us 2 minutes to connect to him and for him to come back online. And then we will be proceeding with the question answer sessions because we have a lot of questions piled up here for him.
Ma'am, he is joining in 5 minutes.
Hello, am I back?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
Oh, no, that's
okay, sir.
Great. So let me, how much time do I have?
I think we can go on for 5 minutes more.
5, yeah.
Okay. Done. Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, sir.
So and my journey is now into Hampi Center, exploring education and space making. So we are looking at working with various schools and colleges and students, working on various workshops. At present, we are looking at working with colleges on documenting certain crafts or documenting a particular structure in Hampi. So definitely would like to invite your college to join us in one of these workshops. I'll talk to Sampada and the team a little later about this. Nothing much, I think. This are all, I don't know why all this was put, but anyways. There'll be a lot of research and documentation. We're setting up an incubation cell for certain crafts. We're working on that. We do workshops on nature-inspired design thinking. We do workshops on tensegrity. We do workshops on paper folding. We do workshops on form finding with nature and things like that. So I think this would be my last slide about literally enjoying what you do and keeping the child in you alive, literally till the time it's time to say goodbye. So keep that youngness in you alive. This is me a few months ago, but definitely now I'm almost 30 kgs lesser than what you see here. Thank you. This is Chetan signing off for the day. Thank you everyone for this great opportunity you've given me, and hope this triggers up some thoughts and question and answers from each one of you.
Sujata, can you unmute yourself?
Sorry. Thank you, sir, for your amazing presentation. All examples you have shown are very interesting. The play of light and experimentation with the structure is very, very amazing. Thanks a lot. Now I hand over the platform to Dr. Sampada Peshwe for the question and answer session.
Chetan, I think you would have to stop sharing.
I did, right?
Yeah, but I think it's
okay.
your screen is still visible probably. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Awesome.
What an amazing presentation, and none of us wanted it to stop because everything that you were showing, it was full of the passion that you have for design. and it was, the teacher's delight, so as to say, because if we say experiment with forms, tick, okay, we say experiment with like structure, tick, light, yes, tick, couple of ticks there. So all of your
passed,
designs
madam.
really 110 out of 100. You get. But absolutely wonderful, and one presentation just cannot do justice to all of the work that you have, and we will definitely be in touch with you as to how to take this ahead. And I'm sure not only students but as teachers also learned a lot from today's presentation. Light was the hero of your design, definitely, but mainly it is your passion for model making that really comes through, because each of your designs is, like it pushes the envelope, like coming to structural system, coming to geometry. So it was a great delight. So thank you so much for sharing your works of passion with us. And for the audience, I cannot miss this chance to share this picture that Chetan was talking about. Can you see the picture? So
yes,
that's
yes.
yeah, so that's the the slenderer version of Chetan on the right side, the one with the mustache, and that's me in the center, and that's NASA. And just like Chetan mentioned, even I was a great part of NASA. I was a NASA secretary, and I've learned a lot in life in NASA. So I always encourage all the students that do take part in NASA and learn a lot from it. But because he mentioned it, I had to dig out this picture and share it. So I'm I'm just going to unshare.
It's such a lovely thing. Thank you.
Yes, it is. It is.
I do have this on my wall in the office.
Yes, just a quick 2-minute. Chetan mentioned that we kind of bumped into each other. I was listening to him presenting in a conference in Mumbai, and I I continued to think, isko kahin dekha hai, isko main janti hu, but it doesn't ring any bells. And then Chetan name I said. So as soon as his presentation was finished, I went and said, Chetan, are you that Chetan? He said, of course. And I said, do you remember coming to Nagpur, for the NASA, because I think he was the vice president of NASA at that time, and we were, we had hosted. So I was a part of the core committee, and he said, yes, I can't forget. And he said he has this same very picture framed in his office, and I felt so nice, and it was a great moment. We were meeting almost after 25-30 years, and it was a great moment. Adding to that, his wonderful work. I said, Chetan, we are definitely going to call you in our college. And this entire Corona business happened. So we thought, okay, best turn it into a webinar so that everyone can take advantage. So I think we have a lot of questions, and I'll just hand over the platform to our students. We have Unnati Dhande and we have Shraddha Supare. So Unnati and Shraddha, you can ask him your questions and also take up some questions from the pilot that we have. Okay. All right. Yeah. Over to you, Unnati.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I am Unnati Dhande, student of 4th year. And sir, presentation was really amazing and inspired us a lot. And sir, we have lots of question in the question box. And the first question is about the NASA. And sir, I am also working for NASA from 1st year, and really it's a great experience for me. So first question is, what inspires you to being and part of NASA?
No, that whole idea, no, I mean, the whole idea that you get to see peer learning, right? You get to see works from different parts of the country, and the thought process of different schools is so varied. So you kind of learn from each school. You kind of learn from. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now, going back memory line to my NASA days. I remember the first time I went in. I mean, for my school, I'd done the best drawings, and they were all like, wow, wow. And when I go there and I started pinning it up, and then somebody walks into that room and I'm pinning up, I step back and act as if I'm an observer, right? So you kind of. But you kind of look at the kind of the variety of works, and there's so much of learning which happens in NASA, and so much of brethren which happens, right? I strongly believe in this term that we need to have fun in our fundamentals, right? If you don't have fun in the fundamentals, then there's no fun in being an architect. That's where I said, that's where I kept my last picture of me dancing, right? Even with my overweight frame. I said, until unless you have fun with your fundamentals, there's no life, right? So even as a student, I would ask you to, when you visit NASA, have fun with what you observe. And that's something which triggered me, and I fell in love with NASA, and I saw that there was so much of documentation, especially with Louis Kahn happening with the cultural system, with the buildings across the country, and we didn't have a repository. So that's when I kept in and I said, let's start a documentation center. And I started the documentation center for NASA, and we ran it for almost 4 or 5 years, and then I think it fizzled out when I left the thing. I don't know if it's still there. I heard that RISV or some other college has taken up the center now, but that's something which triggered me, and that's what helped me in NASA.
Yes, sir. Very true. So, sir, next question is, according to you, what are the key considerations for deciding the material palette?
I don't know who said this. Was it Louis Kahn? I don't know. Why did you place the brick like this? It was because the brick wanted it to be placed like that.
Yes.
Right? So you never know, man. You never know. I have nothing against any material. You give me plastic, we'll build out of plastic. You give me waste material, we'll build out of waste material. You give me keyboards, we'll build out of keyboards. I have built a roof out of keyboards. There was this client who came to me and said that I have 25 lakhs in my kitty and I want a house to be built, but I want to spend 15 lakhs on my photography. I want to buy these many equipments. Can you build a house for me in 10 lakhs? So he took a housing loan for 25 lakhs. We ended up building a house for him in 12 lakhs and he used the remaining 13 lakhs for buying his camera equipment. Right? But how can you build that requirement within 12 lakhs? So you ended up going down, finding out demolished buildings, getting the bricks from that demolished building, getting that stone from that demolished building, getting doors and windows from the demolished buildings, and you kind of recreate a new geometry out of it, right? So material is never an initial palette. Material starts playing. I mean, you would have seen a lot of red bricks which I use, because that's one beautiful material which I mean, we are a land of brick manufacturers. Do you know that we consume total 70,000 hectares of topsoil every year only to make bricks? Now, as an architect, should I be conscious of that? Right? So if I'm conscious, can I look at a material which uses 1/6 lesser topsoil to make the same kind of bricks? Right? These are hollow blocks, hollow bricks which are hollow. So somewhere it gets you start looking at that material and said, well, this material looks at only 1/6 of the topsoil consumption than a regular brick. So it's lighter on the earth, number one. Number two, it's because of its holes. The moment I keep the block on a vertical, the holes become my compression load bearing members. The hole is never an empty space. The hole now is a structural system for me. Right? So I keep it vertical and I've created a new geometry. And now I can build a 2-floor storage structure in a 6-inch wall, which none of my structural engineers agree to. Right? So for them, I build it with 8 inches, but I have built buildings with 6 inches. 6 inches wall which go up 2 floors because the material allows you to do so.
Very interesting.
Yes. So, sir, next question I want to ask that we will be starting with our thesis. Sir, can you please guide us about how to go about it and what the goals and targets?
Okay, sorry, madams. I will be entering into your anti-territory. No, I would look. This is something I believe. My office is an intern-driven office. I have very few architects inside my office. I have a continuous flow of interns because I strongly believe that I need young thoughts to come and question the whole process. Right? So what I find this as a common problem statement by most of the students who walk in. They always come and say, we didn't learn much in college, but we're learning so much in this office. But I will tell you one strong thing. All that the college teaches you is the basic foundations of what you want to explore. All the tools you're learning, all the tools you're being able to express today as an architect, creatively is being taught by a college, right? And I think even the trigger point for what an idea is to start from a college. So I would always say, with your thesis, start working on what should be your philosophy, which you want to express. And if you want to break a lot of rules which your college has taught you to follow, break it. Thesis is one place you are allowed to do so. And the more you break it, the more interesting your process will be. But you have to understand what is that philosophy, right? I mean, I do this workshop on what is nature-inspired design thinking, on how I look at nature as an inspiration, and how I look at, I mean, today I am able to look at, what do you say, the morpho butterfly, which has certain geometrical systems on its wings, and say, how can I recreate an architectural language out of a morpho butterfly at a nano level, right? Now, how do you get into that journey? Is by questioning, by getting your philosophy straight and getting your concepts right. Right? You might want to solve a world's problem. You might want to solve a single structural problem. I was telling you, my thesis project, I had almost 35 juniors, students, juniors of my school from various colleges, 35 people working on my thesis project. And do you know what was the topic of my thesis project? What is a cube? The question was simple. What is a cube? So we started questioning it philosophically. We started questioning it geometrically. We started questioning it structurally. We started questioning it in terms of scale, proportions. We ended up building a township using only cubes, right? But if you don't get into that basic question of what you want to explore, then don't do a plan. Sorry, madam. I don't ever start work with a plan. I think start work with sculpture. Start work with your thought process and a sculpture and a piece of sculpture. Use clay, use soap, use any material you find on the road. Create sculptures to get your thought process out. Become an artist first, and then you start. I'm serious. I'm not getting too serious on very serious topics of study in thesis, but if you want to explore yourself as an artist, as an architect, as somebody who will be doing something sensible, we practice sensible architecture. We don't practice eco-friendly architecture. A lot of people call us, we are green architects, we are eco-friendly architects. No, we are sensible architects. We don't do posh architecture. We don't do architecture which is show off. I don't believe in spending lakhs of rupees for a person who is walking on the road for 2 minutes. But I would rather spend 50,000 on the person who is staying inside the house and enjoying that space. Right? So be sensible architects. So what is it that you want to study? Understand that, then definitely the guides will help you formulate that idea into different processes, giving it different steps and allowing you to explore that. Understand that the plan, the bubble diagram, the flow chart, everything are only tools, and you've been trained to understand those tools and carry them on your whatever, say a quiver. No, quiver is where you put all your arrows in. Use them as arrows, put it in your quiver, and use it only when you require it. But they are not your trigger points. They're only your tools to explore. Your trigger point is here.
Very good sort of answer, and I think Unnati will be happy because Sujata here is the thesis in charge. So now if you know Unnati breaks some rules, you know, she can say कि मैम आप तो थे तब जब हमको चेतन सर ने बताया कि सारे rules break करो. But that's good. I think should we ask Shraddha to take over some of the questions?
Yes,
few questions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Unnati. Okay, so first of all, sir, it was an amazing presentation, very inspiring. So my first question is, what all difficulties are faced while providing complex geometries and using cost-effective methods at the same time?
Okay. There's only one problem we face. One difficulty we face. Your thought process, your mind. But if you liberate that part and say that I'm able to create any kind of geometry, and if I allow the material to be a part of my friend circle, you can create cost-effective, sustainable, green, eco-friendly buildings using complex geometries. Today we are designing a very interesting science city in Karnataka. This is a huge science city. We're designing 250 acres of science city for school children to come and visit. Right, 250 acres of development, and you know the material of construction. For a science city, we are using rammed earth, and the geometries are complex. And the geometries are very complex. I mean, my inspirations for some of the structures is the pi diagram, or the number pi, right? How that number 22/7 when divided, it's a, you know that it's a infinite number, right? So you're seeing how can I convert the proportions of each number into an architectural language, and that we are exploring with rammed earth. It's possible. So the most difficulty is your mindset. Surpass that and you will be able to do something amazing.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so the second question is that you have beautifully intertwined the use of material and the play of light and shade in your projects. So doesn't it get tough when the context is very challenging in terms of no dominant material or a very challenging climatic zone that doesn't allow the use of large open spaces or openings?
I was just sharing with you one house, no? I said it's at Ilkal, where temperatures go up to almost 48 degrees. You know, I have a practice which is getting me projects in hot and dry climates. Because I mean, you need to understand light and climate in different perspectives. But yeah, the house in Ilkal cuts down almost 15 degrees of heat from the outside to inside. So even in peak summer, they use the fan only in the afternoons. Right. So yeah, I think as experience goes, as you start playing around with materials and understanding how that material functions and how you allow light to play around with that material. For me, why I love light is because it's the most dynamic thing. It can give life to everything inside that space. I mean, when you put a brick there, you're putting it for life, right? You're cementing its, I mean, it's the right term. You're cementing its position for life, right? Now, how do you make it dynamic? If you don't allow something very dynamic like light or wind to pass through it, so use it.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure listening to you. I will now hand over to Sampada ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Hope you enjoyed the time.
Yes, I'm sure, you know, nobody wants this session to end because the questions are interesting and your answers are just, you know, so much to the point, and we've just had so much of learning here, and we will surely have a, you know, part 2, part 3 of this ahead. So thank you so much again. I would really and I called up Chetan to request him that can you have a webinar, and without a second's pause he said yes. You know, I mean, he didn't even say let me check my calendar, nothing doing. He said yes, and then we worked out the date. And it was a great pleasure that he put aside, you know, all of his hectic schedule to be with us here. So again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hand over now the platform to Sujata for the conclusion.
Thank you, Sampada, Unnati, and Shraddha for a question answer session. Before we conclude, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all those who have helped in organizing this webinar. I thank all the honorable members of our management, Women's Education Society, for their continuous support and a strong support. Our Director and Secretary of Women's Education Society, Dr. Shamla Nair, Madam, who has always been a great support to us. Thank you, Madam. I would like to thank architect Chetan Shiv Prasad, who has taken a valuable time from his busy schedule to share work with us. I would like to thank our principal, Madam Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, for her guidance and support in organizing this program. I would like to thank architect Vaijanti Yadav and architect Sneha Mandekar for the efforts they taken by them for organizing this webinar and for the technical support. Thank you once again to all of you for supporting in organizing this webinar and making this webinar very successful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Sir. Thank you,
Should we leave?